Hi, I'm Leanne Ely. I'm a nutritionist, a New York Times best-selling author, and some people even say I'm a life coach. I started the Daily Dish Show to share my story, my truth, and my journey to vibrancy, and to inspire others to do the same. Because it's all about grit, perseverance, and finding a way despite the odds. It's about embracing the whole woman, not just the parts that are easy to love, and feeding her heart, mind, body, and soul. But I found that this isn't just my story, it's your story too. It's go time. This is the Daily Dish. So here's what we are going to do right now. We are going to talk about reclaiming your personal power or absolutely claiming your personal power. Maybe you didn't even know it was there. There's my girl Darla, because you know what she's doing? So's Lynn. She's sprinting with everything that we've got, right? Everything that we've got. Here it is, 1:30, breaking my fast with a little hot milk mix. Man, it feels good to be in control, doesn't it? Thank you for that. So let's talk about personal power, because this is how we get into the weeds of changing our lives. Absolutely changing our lives, because I have noticed that what happens with us is when we get lost in the weeds of mindset stuff and trying to figure this out and trying to figure that out and waiting until the plan is perfect and all of this other kind of stuff, what it really boils down to is belief in the abilities that you have and the power that you have to have a voice in your own life and to do what it is that you want to do with your life. To be able to see that vibrant vision of what it is that you want and know that everything that you need in order to go after that is intrinsically inside of you. That is really incredible. You know, I want you to power up. That's what this whole thing is about today and the rest of this week. And I think you're going to really enjoy this whole looking at and really digging into powering up, because it's there for you. It's yours to claim at any time. True. So your power, of course, is based on you. It's based on your vision, not mine, yours. It's based on your strength, the confidence that comes from actually doing something, because confidence doesn't ever come first. It comes after. Have you noticed that? Always comes after. And also the competence that you develop over the course of your life. Now, an example of this is, I'll use my daughter. The competency and the skill sets and the talents and everything that she has are so much different than mine, but very complementary and very much in alignment, obviously, because she works partly with Saving Dinner. She has her own thing going on, but when it comes to photography and lighting and the way things should be set up, and I'm just completely lost in that. She's really good with social media as well, but this is what she has done. She's developed a competency based on her talents and her desires, and she's put her focus on that to create it. So much so that, I'm very proud of her. An author that she's working with, the cookbook that's coming up is going to be with Clarkson Potter. That's been on my goal list forever. Clarkson Potter chooses cookbooks based on the photography. That's my daughter. That's where the competency, and where did that competency come from? Years ago, she was using a little itsy bitsy camera, and then she changed the camera. Now she's just got this supersonic thing going on, and she can still take a great picture with her phone. Competency. And it builds on her confidence and the strengths and the eye that she has, all developed, by the way. It starts with an interest, and it starts with doing something that you like, and it gets better as you go. Those of you who do handcrafty things, and Jenny has started a new business with her crafting. Have you noticed how much different your knitting or your crocheting looks as you get a little more competent? That strength develops, and that the ability to do it is beautiful. You see this because when you first start, you're just like, okay, well, that was practice. And then as you go, you're giving these beautiful little sweaters as gifts that you made with your hands. And you're confident in the skills and you feel like this is a lovely gift to give. And it's a lovely gift to give. My sister-in-law gave my mother two beautiful shawls, and I still have them, all hand crocheted, just gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. And the thing is that the primary aim of personal power is self-mastery. And we all need this in order to get what we want out of this life. If we don't have self-mastery and we're just pulled by every little direction and everybody else's agenda, we don't get to get into what it is that we want in our lives. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago, I think, in one of our topics. And self-mastery can be one of those things that I just go, I don't want to listen to that. It sounds too much like, discipline and all of that. And, it's involved in that. How do you get to mastery if you don't have the discipline to really study and to really do it? Like Sarah says, competency takes time and work. Isn't that the truth? It takes time and work on anything. I was thinking about this the other day and I thought, what would be interesting is to go back and watch one of my original Facebook Lives. I was just talking with Jenny about that because she did her first Facebook Live for her little business for this week. And she said it was all 2 minutes of it, used to being on this side of the camera, et cetera. But you watch, she's going to crush it simply because she's just now developing this new skill set, this new competency. And it's driven by her personal power over the desire and the vision that she has for what she wants to create in her life. Do you see how this all works? There's a nice little circle there. And what I say is personal power is a recognition of the human spirit. It is. This is what drives us to not just exist, but to become. And there's such a big difference of that. And it's your personal influence as well, by the way. It is your personal influence because you influence others simply by the whole tenor of what your life is about and what it is that you're doing and how you do it. People take notice. We see that. We see this in the before and afters when we go into the Hot Milled Sprint group. We see people who are really doing the work and getting the results. And it's inspiring, isn't it? They're using their personal power to push that ball down the field, by the way. It's not that they have any magical, mystical, whatever. It's what they've got inside. It's their personal power. So think about what it is for a minute, because I'm going to tell you right now, you have it as much as I have it, as much as anyone else on this planet who has breath in their nostrils have it. I want you to hear me. Do you know that any appliance that you have that is, when it is plugged into the wall, will work, but not until you push the button, flick the switch, or dial the knob, right? If the appliance is dead, it's unplugged. But if the appliance is alive, we plug it into the wall and then we press push. Your television, anything like that. In other words, we're always tapped into that electricity, to that personal power. It's just a matter of pushing the button and choosing to push the button. Listen, I will tell you, we'll all sit there and go, yeah, maybe so, but what do I do? How do I push that button? And I'm just going to tell you that what I have found in my life is that when you understand and recognize and acknowledge this personal power, it can't wait to kind of start wiggling its way out of you. I'm telling you, it's always there, but not until we flick the switch, not until we press the button. So this is what creates the necessary path to the vibrancy that we've all decided that we want, right? So developing this personal power, in my mind, is absolutely imperative. If you've decided that this is what you want, then this is what you need to go ahead and grab, right? It's daily. It's the consistency of what it is that you do. This is how you get results in anything. I will ask you, you handcrafters, do you think that if you decided once a week to just pick up and crochet a little bit, that you would be a master at it? Or is it the daily consistency of sitting there and crocheting maybe while you're watching TV that has developed that skill, that has turned a desire into an actual talent? Because, I believe that our talents bubble up and they let themselves be known because we have a desire to go after them. But the talents are only developed when we spend time on them. Imagine that. But that's how it is with anything. It could be with your talent, with your work, with whatever it is that you have made a decision to do in your life. It's what you're focusing on, right? It's what you're focusing on. And for me, this consistency, this is what brings out your vibrant vision and develops it further and creates an absolute framework for going after what it is that you want. Now, you might not have all those hows worked out. Probably not. I don't know anyone who has. I do know a lot of people, though, who wait until they've got all the hows, and they've been waiting and waiting and waiting. Because if you don't act, you don't get. That's just what it is. So when we decide that we're going to go after our own personal power, and I'm talking about having the things that we want in our life, we recognize that it's inside, and we're going to daily do something. We're going to actually be present in our lives, not living on autopilot, but actually being in the present tense of what our lives are. So here's this is what personal power can look like in your life, because you're probably saying, okay, so what does that look like exactly? I'm going to give you 10 traits of people who have personal power. 10. Number 1, they happily help others on their way. With boundaries, of course. Get it? With boundaries. In other words, they're not overly volunteering themselves or overly helping or overly imposing themselves, on their kids or whatever. As a parent, you have to kind of figure that part out, right? Not overly. So happily helping others is number 1. I think that's a really good one, because that means you have a little bit of confidence in yourself and you're ready to help other people. Number 2 is always learning, making mistakes, and taking 100% responsibility for yourself. Yeah, we get that. That's what wise women do, after all. And number 3 is failing. You ready for that one? Failing. Because we don't live life perfectly. We live our lives excellently. That's what we do. And then when we fail, and part of the excellent way of doing this is assessing, okay, so what do I need to do to fix this? Because I just had an Edison moment. I had a moment where I've got to fix this and readjust and get back into the swing of things. So how do I do that? Number 4 is opening to hearing about another way. Yeah, sometimes our way isn't the right way. My way or the highway is never going to get you what you want, by the way. Be open. Number 5 is being a good communicator without being harsh or forceful. You don't have to push hard. Yeah, this has been a hard one for me. I prided myself on communication, but my communication skills needed some softening, and still do. And I still, to this day, and I invite any of you, if you ever feel like I've been too harsh or I've been too sharp or just too abrupt or whatever, call me out. I'm open to that. That includes everybody who works for me, by the way. I don't want to be that person. And if I have, it's just been a blind spot in my life. But we all have them, right? We have blind spots. This is part of personal power, is plugging into the big vision and the big picture of what it is that we want, knowing that full well we're going to run into this stuff. It's part of being human. Number 6 is being a good listener, so that people feel heard by you. They don't feel like you're just sitting there waiting for them to take a breath so you interject your thoughts or give unsolicited advice, ad nauseum. In other words, being a good listener just means showing up and just hearing and having an empathetic nod and maybe repeating back. So you're feeling X, Y, and Z. Doesn't it feel good to be loved like that? If someone does that for you, what if we did it for others? Number 7 is working on goals. Not just existing, not just taking up space, but taking up space, having a voice, doing the work. This is a difference, because it makes life so much juicier and yummy, doesn't it? Number 8 is not quitting on themselves. Hello. We've made a decision that we've got grit, not quit, haven't we? We have. We've made a big decision about that, and we need to move forward into that. Number 9 is keeping your promises to yourself too. To yourself too. You know, we break promises to ourselves. We crack our integrity. There's a little crack. There's a little breach, and we feel like crap afterwards too. And it just doesn't work out. So when we say I'm going to, you're making a declaration and a promise. Remember, decree, decide, and declare, or declare, decide, and decree, something like that. Those 3 Ds. That's a proclamation. You know, that's your manifesto. That is your promise to yourself, made aloud. So show up for those promises, because that's number 10. You show up, you deliver the goods, you get her done. You know, not perfectly, but certainly excellently. And we know that motivation is fleeting and fickle, but guess what? We're all motivated by something. Why do people keep coming back and doing the sprint? What's the motivation? To feel better, to lose a little weight, to, you know, be in this camaraderie of incredible women? What's your motivation? There's a reason why people keep showing up over and over and over again. And ask, you know, you can ask Joanne. Joanne's 2019. She's 2 years into doing the sprint every single month. Not only has she taken off the weight and kept it off, but it feels good. It feels good. How about that? Brendan Burchard, who said in the opening sentence of the Motivation Manifesto, listen to this: why, having been endowed with the courageous heart of a lion, do we live as mice? Think about that for a minute. And that's our task for this week, right? Is becoming the lionesses that we have been created to be. We're fierce. We're powerful. We can lead the pack. We've got this. We've been called to become. And we do that by tapping into our personal power. So let's take a look at the ever elusive motivation for just a minute, okay? Another thing Burchard says is, a hallmark of those who achieve greatness is the discovery that they can control the level of motivation they feel by better directing their own minds. Oh, really? Really? I'm telling you, better by better directing your own minds. Sarah's posting right now. This is the 1-year anniversary of her first sprint. 50 pounds lost and not found again. What is up with that? I say it's not because Sarah did the plan perfectly. It's because she did it excellently and she worked on her mindset to go along with it. You can't just work a plan without working on your mind, because otherwise you're going to fall back into the same old, same old. It just happens, you know? And I will say too, you know, I will say that one little disclaimer here is, if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, and if you keep just feel like you're losing your way, and if you're depressed and it's just like this sad thing, go see a counselor, see a doctor, get checked out medically. You know, there could be an issue there, because consistency in anything, bad or good, is what's going to lead us to the results that we're getting in our lives, bad or good. Right? The results that we're getting in our lives are the results of what we're doing. So if we don't like the results that we're getting, we got to shift it. And I say the way that we do that is by not worrying about how, but instead worrying about who we are as we show up in our lives. And that means tapping into our personal power. So I believe too that this is an emotional breakthrough. When we recognize that we are no longer being held captive by these out of control emotions or the people in our lives or all of our circumstances, when we see this, we can recognize that there are choices to be made. I've shared this before, that one of the most powerful life-changing thoughts for me personally was reading a book that, oh gosh, and now of course I don't remember it. Is it on my bookshelf over there? Is it? It's somewhere. It's around here somewhere. This is a reference book of mine, but it's about decision making. And that it's like, by the way, the book's like 50 years old. that choices are decisions and decisions are choices, even though I can kind of break them down a little bit for you because I think there is a little bit of a difference. But when I understood that choices are actually decisions, everything, everything, everything shifted. Here we go. I'm going to give you a couple of things. Let me see what I've got here. Number one, if we choose to be cynical and negative about anything, the outcome is going to be exactly that, cynical and negative. If that's what we choose, if that's what we expect, if that's the setup, if that's our framework for how we're doing life, that's what we're going to get back in return. As you reap, as you sow, so shall you reap. Ever heard that one before? And if we decide it's too hard, so get this, if we choose to be cynical and negative, number two is if we decide that it's too hard, it's too overwhelming, or it's unmanageable, then it is. You see how these two things overlap on each other? They just do. And they're interchangeable. But the difference, according to, this is, some psychology guy said, the difference is the choice connects to desire and decision connects to behavior. But I say we make a choice to change the way we speak about it. When we say, I've made a decision, it is so much more, it's like everybody stops and listens. I've made a decision. Whoa, what's happening here? Not, I've made the choice to do this. How much more powerful is it to say, I have made a decision? It's way more powerful. And decisions follow, or decisions start the whole behavior process. Whereas choice, it's a little wavery. So let's start making decisions rather than making choices. So this is how we begin to see the link between these two things, and we can start to change the way we speak about our choices and make them very emphatically decisions. Because honestly, the motivation comes that way, doesn't it? It is much more powerful. It is so much more powerful. I've made a choice. It's like, well, that choice could change. That choice sounds like I've gone up to the buffet table and said, I'll have the bacon and the breakfast buffet table. I'll have the bacon and the scrambled eggs, but the choice could change if you see the omelet down the way. Versus if you say, I've made a decision, I'm following the sprint, so I know what it is. That decision is that I'm going to follow the sprint when I go to the table. A whole different thing, because your choice doesn't change. Your decision doesn't change. Your decision's emphatic. It could change, but you've made a decision which then will follow with the behavior. That's what we want. So I'm going to offer you this. How about deciding to be motivated, not waiting for it to happen? We've talked about that quite a bit, but I'm telling you right now that when we are living on purpose, consciously, in the present, and with a vision for what it is that we want in our lives, then we can tap into the personal power that is ours and ours alone. And that will obviously, like I said, everybody's got a motivation. What is your motivation then for getting off the dime and doing something about it? What is your motivation? Everyone has one. Everyone does. What was Jenny's motivation for starting a business, right? What was Caroline's motivation for buying this brand new expensive camera? What are the motivations behind every single sprinter that's sprinting this week? What's your motivation? That's enough. That's a motive for going, doing, and going forward. That is enough. And where you go to the next thing is you pull out that hot desire that you have for it. Because that, my friends, is your personal power disguised. You tap into that and start understanding and start emoting over that stuff, start plugging into that stuff, flipping that switch, turning the dial, pressing the button, whatever it is that it's required. That's the needle mover. That is the needle mover, because our personal power is sparked by these decisions. Sparked. You just turn the button on, you just flip the switch. You just cranked the dial. That's powerful. And that's your personal power. It comes to meet you where you are. You've made a decision. So remember this, it's the commitment to those decisions that create the path to your vibrancy through your personal power that you're already plugged into, that you already have. It is God-given, by the way. That's why I always say that you're here on purpose and for purpose. Because if you weren't given the goods at birth, it's up to you to develop them, but it's your personal power that's going to make it powerful and get you to the place that you need to go and off the dime. What do you say? You ready to do that? I don't know about you, but I am. Peace be with you. I'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you for joining me today. You can find me on TikTok for daily tips to help support your most vibrant life. And remember, you are the author of your own story. Until next time.